Now, I'm sure I don't have to tell you that now is the time more than ever we need to pull together as a nation. One of the ways we can do this is by joining a voluntary organisation, such as the good people we're going to hear from now. As my good friend Winnie, Mr. Churchill always says, we need...
Well, thank you very much, Mr. Paul E. Titian. I'm now going to talk to somebody involved in the war effort, Mrs. Samantha Harriton. Tell me, Miss Harriton, what is your role in the war effort?
Well, as a child, I'd always wanted to be a nurse, and I'd earned my first aid badge in the Girl Guides, and then I joined the Red Cross as a junior. But, oh gosh, it was awfully boring, rolling all those bandages and such like. Anyway, rolling on. When the war started, I volunteered to serve in the Queen Alexandra Corps, and I managed to get a posting in a hospital in Italy. Oh, it was very exciting to begin with, but it was so sad, caring for all those brave boys. Too many died. They'd been inspired to go to war by those patriotic posters. Anyway, now I'm home again, working in a military hospital, caring for those who caught a blighty one, as they call it, and also those that were injured in training sessions as well.
But I say, don't you think those recruitment posters are wonderful? All those glorious, heartwarming images. Such an encouragement to our dear boys to join up. Don't you think?
No, I don't. Whoever designed them ought to be ashamed of themselves. If only they could see those poor chaps, scarred physically and mentally for life. Oh, they just ought to be thoroughly ashamed. And even those, the thousands that they've sent to their deaths. Oh, I'm sorry. You'll have to excuse me.
Isn't it marvellous to see how our women folk have such moral fibre? I can see that she cares for her patients a great deal. I hope she's not too upset. I'm sure we're all going to be very grateful to Miss Samantha Harriton for her efforts. I'd like to now turn to a rather mature lady, perhaps, a Mrs. Margaret Dolby. Mrs. Dolby, I hear that they call you the full-time volunteer.
That's an exaggeration, of course, but I am doing my bit while my husband's away at the war. I'm an organiser for the WVS, you know.
Oh, right.
Staffing the rest centres and the shelters and organising lunches for the women that work in the munitions factory.
Oh, the munitions factory, that's jolly good, yes, excellent.
Yeah. And I'm not one to boast, but I have collected more scrap metal than almost anybody else in town. And where would our salvage drive be had it not been for me? And of course I still have to look after jobs that need doing on my farm.
Goodness me, I don't know how you fit it all in. How do you ever have any free time?
Why should I want free time when my husband's away fighting for king and country and there's so much to be done? There's evacuees to be billeted, shopping to be done for the elderly and working women, the clothing depot to be staffed. Make do and mend, that's what I say. Make do and mend.
Thank you, Mrs. Dolby. I say, isn't she an inspiration to us all? Jolly old girl, fantastic. My next interviewee is from the Commonwealth, one of our fearless Canadian cousins who's come over to fight with Britain against the forces of evil, Flight Lieutenant Walter Wingfield. So, Flight Lieutenant Wingfield, how come you're over here?
Well, of course, this isn't the first time that I've served alongside your great British aircrew. I was here in the Great War too, flying missions over Germany. Flying's in my blood, you know. I remember some pretty hairy dogfights with the Boche. That Red Baron was...
Yes, thank you, Flight Lieutenant. But didn't I hear somewhere that you were shot down and spent most of your time in the last war in a German concentration camp?
Yes, that was unfortunate, but... here I am, back again, ready to fight for Mother England.
So how is it you're here instead of being with your fellow countrymen in Italy?
More dash bad luck, I'm afraid. Just as we were about to be posted to Italy, I went down with TB. I spent the last few months being nursed back to health by that dear good Sam Harriton, who you were just talking to. owe my life to that dear, sweet girl. By a stroke of luck, I've been seconded to the British Commonwealth Air Training Plan, and here I am, helping train your young fellas to fly.
Jolly good show. Well, it just shows, doesn't it? You can't keep a good man down. Thank you, Flight Lieutenant Wingfield. Now, my next guest, I'm slightly confused. I seem to be interviewing Marlene Dietrich. That can't be right, surely.
Nein, not Marlene Dietrich. Marlene Dietrich. I'm Swiss, after all.
Oh, that is interesting. So how come you're living over here?
My parents moved to Southend-on-Sea before the last war.
Oh, you were born here. So how is it you have Swiss nationality?
I'm entitled to it through my parents. And actually, I was a very young baby when we came here. Remember, we Swiss are neutral, after all.
Yes, Miss Dietrich, of course. I didn't mean to imply anything by that. I was just intrigued by your accent.
Very well, I accept your apology. I am very much a member of the voluntary community here. I do not come here to, how you say, blow my own trumpeter. But I am a regular at the ladies' luncheons, and no one could find fault in my fight on the home front.
Thank you, Miss Dietrich. I mean, Miss Dietrich. Oh dear, I hope I haven't offended her. My next guest might be a bit of a strange choice, but perhaps I'll leave you to make your own mind up about that. I'm going to be talking to Mr. Gerald Glynn. Mr. Glynn, let me come straight to the point. You're a conscientious objector, are you not?
Yes, I am. You see, I come from a family who believes that the Bible means what it says. So when it says, thou shalt not kill, that's what it means.
Well, I see, Mr. Glynn, but surely there must be people who think you're a coward, perhaps a bit yellow.
Yes, sir, there are. But I can tell you it takes more courage to follow your convictions than following the crowd. My father was the same during the Great War, but he served as a stretcher bearer on the Somme and rescued wounded men from no man's land while under fire, so I defy anyone who called him a coward. I would have done the same, but if it weren't for my heart condition.
Your heart condition? So you actually had no need to register as a conscientious objector because you weren't A1 fit anyway?
Yeah, I guess that's true, but I thought you asked me here to talk about my voluntary work.
Yes, of course, Mr. Glynn. What is it that you do?
I'm the verger at my local church. I take care of the place in the churchyard for no reward, but except for the one that's in heaven. I keep it tidy and tend the graves and dig new ones all too often.
Yes, I suppose there's just too much demand for that these days. It's not a glamorous job, but we're delighted to interview somebody who does that kind of thing. And it's nice to think there are people like you prepared to do that out of the goodness of your heart. Thank you very much, Mr. Glynn. And finally, I'd like to interview a young lady who's done a great deal for one so young. A remarkable young lady, Miss Charlotte Gaff.
Call me Lotta, for goodness sake. Everybody does.
Very well, Miss Gaff. I mean, Lotta, I find you very interesting.
Most men do.
Well, what I actually meant was the fact that you're a newspaper reporter, and I understand you've been a war correspondent in Italy, no less.
Yes, well, I certainly feel that the war will get rid of some of these silly ideas that men and women can't do the same things. I mean, after all, there's no reason why a woman can't do the same job as a man. In fact, I even joined the Fanny so I could get closer to the men, if you know what I mean. You know, and I used to help her sort out the mail, delivering and also comforting some of those young men who were so far away from the comforts of home.
Yes, and I understand that you've done some voluntary work for the War Ministry.
Yes, I helped to design quite a few of the recruitment posters. That led to the volunteering of quite a few people to the war effort, I'll have you know.
Didn't I hear you were writing a book too?
Not writing, dear. Written. In fact, that will come on sale very shortly, in the near future, and I'm afraid that's going to ruffle a few feathers, because I will be dishing the dirt on certain people. In fact, there'll be a book signing next week at the Volunteer of the Year Awards.
Well, Miss Gaff, you are a truly remarkable young woman, and I, for one, would like to see more of you.
I bet you would, you sly old dog.
Yes, I'm sure you know what I meant. Well, thank you, miss, and good night to you all. Thank you. Is that thing off? Thank goodness that's over. What will Mrs. Chumley Warner think? I don't know. Absolutely disgraceful.